Shiva sir, are you there? Yes, I think you can share now. Yes. We can wait for a few minutes. Participants are joining. So we will start at 3 p.m.
Okay, no problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of our national seminar on exploring diverse perspectives, eco-criticism in the Anthropocene, culture, literature, and environmental consciousness. With us today is our new resource person. We invite our resource person, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Singh, who is a professor at Department of Humanities, O.P. Jindal University, Raigad, and sir will be delivering a talk on the topic Discourses of Ecocriticism and Climate Change in Amitav Ghosh's The Hungry Tide and the Great Derangement. A brief introduction to our speaker before we begin. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Singh is a professor of English, Director, University Social Responsibility, and Chairman, Center for Resource Social Empowerment at O.P. Jindal University, Raigad. Having more than 18 years teaching and administrative experience, his specialization is in the area of Indian writing in English and ELT. He has delivered many keynote visiting lectures on IWE, ELT, soft skills, EI, CSR, ethics, disaster management, behavior-based safety, and human rights, and other topics. Dr. Singh is a renowned corporate trainer and has organized 3 national conferences, 4 national conferences, 3 national workshops, 1 national colloquium, 1 national seminar, 10 national levels tech fests, workshops under faculty development program, and many workshops for the students, and participated as a resource person and paper presenter for more than 90 international conferences and seminars. He has completed a translation project assigned by People's Linguistic Survey of India in 2013, Bhasha Gujarat. He is member of many professional associations and has published 5 patents. He has edited Quest A Quarterly, New Bulletin, Young Professional, a monthly magazine for youths, Prabhat, a literary tabloid and books, Business Communication, Subaltern Voices in Indian English Novels, Environmental Concerns in Indian Writing in English, Aspects of Functional English, Rainbow True Colors of Life, Exceller, and many more. He is a recipient of awards, the Best Academician Award, Best NSS Program Officer Award, Monarch of Humanity Award, APJ Abdul Kalam Award, Vidya Ratan Award for Research Excellence, Distinguished Leadership Award, Creative Giant 2004, Shubhadra Kumari Jana Shatabdi Samman Award, and many such accolades are there to his achievements. Sir, I welcome you with that great history of renown that you have achieved in your experience. I welcome you to today's session.
Thank you. And at the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Priyanka, her team, and naturally, the first one is VITAP. So thank you for giving me this opportunity so that I can talk on some thoughts of whatever I like to talk about. And as my topic is visible, ma'am?
Yes, visible. It's visible.
Okay. So my topic is discourses on eco-criticism and climate change in Amitav Ghosh's The Hungry Tide and the Great Derangement. I think those who are the students of literature, or the learner of the literature, or those who like literature, they know who is Amitav Ghosh. The writer who is very unique one. Especially I can say, mostly I have written a paper also, and I always say he is not a writer, he is a writer as an activist. Because he says creative voices never die. They echo and amplify through memory, through the process of rereading, reinterpretations, and translations. So he is one kind of unique, one is historical, cultural, and environmental concerns. In his fictions, he interweaves myth, history, nature, anthropology, ethnography, experiences, and you can say, especially environment. And everyone is concerned about people and their environment. Critically examining his works, we can easily unearth, we can explore his eco-critical point, a view to establish his intrinsic concerns about environmental calamity, about climate change, and man-nature interface. In his works, he proves but especially I have read mostly all the books till you can say the Hungry Tide. So his works, he proves that he has some concerns and a sense of responsibility towards the world and a well-built tinge of environment. An environmental and ecological alarm pervades in his phrases and actions. Because I have seen the actions also when after tsunami in Chennai, he wrote so many articles and it was published in the Hindu. So setting and choice of places in his fictions work, especially in the Hungry Tide, that works for the sake of only the environmental, I can say ecological concerns. So he talks a lot about the ecology, and just this one we can see this quotation from the Hungry Tide, how he writes, interpole between the sea and the plains. Bengal lies an immense archipelago of island, and there are no borders here to divide fresh water from salt, river from sea. The tides reach as far as 300 kilometers inland, and every day thousands of acres of forest disappear underwater only to re-emerge hours later. So things are there which he always talks about, especially in the Hungry Tide. But the overall his thought on climate change and environment is, he himself told that climate change became a matter of personal urgency. This is the line which really always attracts me. The climate change became a matter of personal urgency for me while I was writing my 2005 novel, The Hungry Tide. The novel is set in the Sundarbans. I think we all know the place in here, the Delta of Bengal. The great mangrove forest of Bengal Delta. While working on the book, I realized that this region was already being impacted by rising sea levels and a retreating coastline. In the years after that, even though I was occupied with a project of a different kind, the red line you can see, I found myself becoming more and more preoccupied with climate change. So the person who himself writes, in which he is totally engrossed or who is totally, you can say, preoccupied, that is on climate change, no doubt, because the impact was increasingly obvious. And at the end, you will find out how he writes about if we are unable to do that one. So after I finished the trilogy, I felt a great need to put down my thoughts on environmental change and its bearing on my practice as a writer. So The Hungry Tide, it starts about the climate change, although he has written so many things, especially environment, cleanliness, and so on, in his The Circle of Reason, The Shadow Lines, The Calcutta Chromosome. But still, I can say these two books, The Hungry Tide and the second one is The Great Derangement, they're totally focused on the environment and the climate change. I'm not going to talk about his notable works. I think those who have studied about him, they know well what he has done. So I'll come directly to The Hungry Tide. This is the book about which I can say this is environmentally oriented, 100% environment oriented book, and getting its physical environment set to suggest that human history is caught up in natural history. It also presents the pen picture of wildlife. What a word you can see here, a pen picture of wildlife versus human sufferings. The novel explores the plight of displaced people, the struggle for land and survival in an endangered ecosystem. While drawing attention to an episode from Indian history, especially Ghosh discovers simultaneously two provinces, an endangered ecosystem where men live and fight with animals and tides, and a region in human heart. The Hungry Tide is the story is based on an eco setting, an immense archipelago of island, Sundarbans. The cyclones have snapped the fragile balance between man and nature in the delicate ecosystem of the island. So we can see how he writes, and especially for this particular thing, the book won the Crossword Book Award also. Here, so many characters, and I will not go on this. First, let's look at the landscape of the Sundarban. Anybody, those who are sensitive, as I have written somewhere, sensitiveness, when your sensitivity is at the peak, you start doing something which nature demands, not you. So the Hungry Tide, if you look at this, this is the place, there is Sundarban. Look at these pictures. What a nice picture. Everything is fine. Everything is really, we want to look at, we want to see them always. Here again, the inhabitants, Naturally, we are losing them. So many species we are losing, and one of them is this one also, Bengal tiger. Again here. So these are the pics which are showing us that what the Sundarban is. But actually, afterwards, what happens, you see here, this is a situation. And sometimes, which I read also, that one company was willing to make here something specifically resort, etc., going to make some tourist place only. So here you can see how the trees were cut and everything is destroyed here. Who wants all these things? Only those who are greedy. Yeah, we have to pay for the development, but at this cost. You have just seen how everything was fine, and now what is happening here. And a writer, as a writer, you can say the person who thinks about, who is very much sensitive about ecology, I don't think he cannot write about it. You may be, I may be, anybody, those who can see all these things. And if we are very much sensitive about all these things, we are going to write all these things. So theme of the Hungry Tide is specifically, which I am going to talk about, that environmentalism and subaltern voices. But mostly I'm going to talk because they have written, he has written everything on ecology. But because they see, he has to make everything like a story. So there is history also, myth also. But most of them, they are surrounding, you can say they are a roundabout way of talking, but coming to the ecology and the nature writing, which we know it is not about only nature, but also human relationship with the nature. So if we talk about the Hungry Tide, is purely of both natural and human. The tide country at Sundarban, to which the whole of the work is devoted, is not only a far-flung land of intimidating physical environment, but also a place of dealings among an assortment of. These are islands where inhabitants live in fear of drowning by tides and man-eating animals. But Ghosted Metcalfe demonstrates, without releasing his conclusion, injury of the Western philosophy of environmentalism on local ethical understanding, introducing a rediscovered diary as primary source. And he refers to the historic tragedy in 1970 and how the peoples in Ireland settled there and what happened there. The author shows that the inhabitants of the tide country are part of the local ecology, having instilled with its malevolent and benevolent calls every day. He is an important writer at present times who, writing the recent concerns of social anthropology with the prosperity of at cultural boundaries. Moreover, there is a certain presence at words in his novels relating to mystery, discovery, and related issues at knowing the unknown. And writer Gandharv writes, keen understanding and rendering of the political, historical, sociological, and cultural sensibility that sets him apart from the clutch of Indian novelists in English that are springing from the woodwork ever since Rushdie immortalized the journal. So with the help of these words, we can see that yes, The Hungry Tide is a novel. It talks about ecology, man-nature relationship. And here you can say, to me, a townsman, the tide country jungle was an emptiness, a place where time stood still. I saw now that this was an illusion, that exactly the opposite was true. What was happening here, I realized, was that the wheel of time was spinning too fast to be seen. In other places, it took decades, even centuries, for a river to change its course. It took an epoch for an island to appear. But here, in the tide country, transformation is the rule of life. Rivers stray from week to week, and islands are met and unmet in age. So in such situation, how people live and how everybody has to take care of their own ecology, their own environment, because everything is changing. Not only because of the nature only, it is not only natural way, but also because of the human beings, how they are exploiting, how they are doing the things there, which are not, we can say, not permitted. So it's really one kind of saga, I can say the story, complete good story of environmentalism, because he writes here everything, how, especially the character Piali Rai, she comes and see on the basis of narrative of whatever she says, we can find out. Yes, it's a it explores the ecosystem of the Sundarbans, varying narration between third-person, omniscient, and first-person perspectives, primarily through the characters Pia, Kanai, Nilima, and Nirmal, with Moina, Fakir, Kusum, and Horan in supporting roles. The main characters each perceive the tide country through individual lenses and the experiential and educational antecedents. Each of them about the Sundarbans are significantly diverse, and conflicts emerge due to differential knowledge and power. Whose presence in this environment in this book, environmental conflicts in the Sundarbans from the neglected perspective of marginalized Sundarbans. Each of the main characters represent political and environmental orientations and allegiance in conflict with one another. The diverse political and ecological actors and their interest in the Sundarbans are animated by relatable characters. Pia has a marine biology background with a conservation orientation, thus a nav imagery about the local village forgiving tigers for killing them in analogous to the international conservation regime. So there is always interdependency. They are interdependent and inexplicable bond between the man and nature. Karl Marx also said, man lives from nature and must maintain a continuing dialogue with it if he is not to die. But the recent era stands as a solid witness to a curious paradoxical bond between man and nature. Nature being the victim of man, and as a result, man being the victim of nature. This is a kind of vicious cycle in which nature as well as man got trapped in. The harmony between man and nature has been gradually destabilized by the cunning interventions of neo-colonial and neo-capital tendencies, which form the negative side of globalization, giving way to a modern man who forgoes his reverence for nature and wants to stamp his superiority over nature. He believes in Darwin's theory of survival. Amit believes the Darwin's theory of survival of the strongest, the fittest, but simply ignores the fact that man can survive only when nature survives. So the unit of survival is organism plus environment. And in this way, we can find that The Ghost Hungry Tide is considered as one of the best novels dealing with nature and eco-critical perspectives. The Hungry Tide, it's a miniature of Amitabh Ghosh's books. The Hungry Tide is one of the few novels which capture the severity of one of the sensitive ecological issues the Indian subcontinent is experiencing. I think we can say it is being experienced everywhere, beginning from Chennai to, you can say, Bengal, etc., etc. Everywhere we can say across the country. So The Hungry Tide is one of the few novels which capture the severity of one of the sensitive ecological issues the Indian subcontinent is experiencing. The geographical setup of the Hungry Tide is not only the unique, but also one of the largest mangrove forests in the world, named Sundarbans. The famous eco-philosopher Rajak, in the preface to his famous book, The Vices of the Earth, he remarks ecological unconsciousness as the main cause for the deeper imbalance in nature, anthropocentric versus non-anthropocentric. One of the remarkable features of the Hungry Tide is that it questions the very belief of humans that nature is meant for human alone. While this is not only for human being, it is for everyone whosoever the species are on Earth. The consideration of humans themselves as the most significant entity of the universe is often considered to be the root cause of the harm done to nature due to human actions. There are a set of non-human characters present in the novel, and everyone, if we analyze everyone, we can find out how ecological concerns they have shown. While there are many people, those who are not doing the things which are important. So next one is the great derangement, the climate change and the unthinkable. This book, when I read, I never thought that it is going to be rated with The Countdown. His one non-fiction work is The Countdown, in which he has written something based on research, although he is really a research person. He always write everything based on research with the data, etc., etc. But still, when I read first time the countdown and then the great derangement, I was so much overwhelmed. What is happening? How a person think about the Himalaya and then about everything others which are really in the other areas. But he does everything like that. So Climate Change and the Unthinkable is a non-fiction book here, and which discusses the cultural depictions, history and politics of climate change. History and politics of climate change and its relationship to colonialism. So when we see the people discussing about the climate change, good kind of conferences people organize on climate change. And when we see that there is the water bottles, people sitting in AC room discussing, while everything is changing, our climate changing, the global warming is because of all those things. So here we can say the book is composed of 3 parts. Really very good book. If those who have not read, please do read this book. And once somewhere I have read, that somebody asked one leader that to whom, which writer is your favorite writer? And she told, is there anyone like Amitabh Ghosh? So we can think of the person who writes about the human being, who writes about the ecology, who is very much concerned about the human being, what may be, how he can do something for the people. I don't know whether people know or not. He, the Glass Palace, he asked the prize givers that I don't want any prize for this particular book. So he has only one thing, do something, as I told, as an activist. So the book is, especially the great arrangement I'm talking about, is composed of 3 parts. The first part is stories, second part, history, and the third part is about the politics. And all these 3 things are about the climate change. Stories regarding climate change, history of climate change, and then politics on climate change. The first part explores why the modern novel struggles as an art form to describe and grapple with the concept of climate change. To understand this shortcoming, Ghosh highlights the role of the uncanny. In the second section, history, Ghosh highlights the role of colonialism in the climate crisis. So everything is, the whole book is based on climate crisis, climate change. With examples ranging from Miami to Mumbai to New York, Ghosh explores why urban planning. Why urban planning? I think we all know what happens in Mumbai, what happens in Delhi, what happens in all the major cities during rainy season. And not only rainy season, afterwards, when we think about the summer season again, what kind of heat is there, especially in Delhi and other places. So Ghosh explores why urban planning deviated and deviates from the indigenous multi-generation knowledge and compelled culture to build away from the ocean. In the final section, especially the politics of climate change, Ghosh notes that activists who single out capitalism as a systematic driver of climate change miss an important element, that is imperialism. When I read the book of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, that is a manifesto for change, I don't know whether you believe it or not. After reading that book, I thought that this book must be read by all the leaders. It may be a sarpanch, or it may be prime minister, or anybody. So everybody should read that book. It may be the leaders of the education sector, leaders of the industry sector, leaders of other sectors also. Because the way he writes, he gives us the directions. He opens our eyes. Same here I have found in The Great Derangement. So Ghosh describes how writers and artists increase their engagement with political movements at the same time as industrial activities intensified. Ghosh ties these 3 sections together with a comparison between the Paris Agreement, they are based on post-Francis, then encyclic on climate change. And in this book, he examines the inability of the present generation. We are, those who are instant people, we are instant generation, what we say in our local language, we always say, we are instant generation people. We want everything instantly. We want noodles, instant noodles. We want coffee, instant coffee, and so on. So Amitabh Ghosh examines the inability of the present generation to grasp the scale of climate change in the spheres of literature. The central premise in this work of non-fiction is based on the statement I think this is the only thing which I can give you. And for that purpose, I am here only. That is, the literature will one day be accused of its complicity with the great derangement and the blind acceptance of the climate crisis. So we have to be very careful about all these things. So those fictional and non-fictional enterprises voices call for more imaginative and cultural forms of fiction that articulate resistance against materialism and can destroy our planet. So now we have to start thinking about the climate change, how we can do something for the sake of doing something so that we can work toward the environmental concerns, we can work ecological concerns, and we all can accept that nature and humans cannot be isolated. In the Hungry Tide, we can see that it brings out the interrelationship between human, nature, and animal worlds. The Great Derangement also thinks about it, how with the help of people, with the help of those who are at the place who can do everything, without any kind of politics, without any kind of ill will, how we can move towards ahead and we can find out the solution for the sake of good kind of environment. So especially in the Hungry Tide, in this novel, nature is proved to be the stronger than manpower. I think we all accept it. It may be about earthquake, it may be about flood, it may be about tsunami. Everywhere we can see that nature is stronger than manpower. And we have to realize it, we have to accept it, we have to recognize it, that really nature is stronger than manpower. That's why we have to do everything so that nature should not be angry. So man is helpless in front of natural calamities and climate change. The life in Sundarbans and nature is weaved together to such a great extent that the inhabitants are forced to accept nature's bounty and adversity. We are, those who are living in Delhi, they also know, those who are living in Chennai, they also know, those who are living in Coastal area, they also know, those who are living at any place, they know that how we are forced sometimes for the natural calamities. So nature is both destroyer and preserver. The relation is a global concern that is deliberately neglected by politicians and is leading to the doom of mankind. That's why I think our responsibility. I would like to say sorry because I have to move for a meeting. I will not take more time, but still I will complete it. So fiction can help people to inhabit a place in their imaginations, to see the ways in which the lives of the animals, the lives of the trees, and the lives of the human beings linked together. So both work, which I have found after reading these two things, I have written papers also on these both of them. We can say that both work deal with the contemporary issues. We shall see how those fictional enterprise falls within the sphere of post-colonial eco-criticism and that considers the phenomena of material eco-criticism. Both the Hungry Tide and the Great Derangement also reveal Ghost environmental advocacy, which is very important because everywhere we can see in the Circle of Vision, in the Hungry Tide, in the Great Derangement, in the Calcutta chromosome, in an antique land, everywhere, wherever you see, you can find out how you can find out his environmental advocacy. Always he does about it. Eco-critical narrative that articulates resistance against the violence of climate change. The Hungry Tide also deals with the plea to preserve the ecosystem of our time. We can consider that climate change poses for the post-colonial writer and the evolving grid of literary forms that shapes the narrative imagination. So in this way, we can simply find out that really these two books are you can say, if you ask me personally, I can say they are the epic of climate change and eco-critical concerns. Very close to my heart. Especially, I wanted to talk a lot about this, but sorry, because of my very specific meeting, I have to go. So I may only 10 minutes more for the sake of questions and answers if you have anything. So please, you can ask, and thank you. Really, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dr. S.K. Singh.
I will send the whole thing. Whatever you want, I can send. It's a very small point, but I have to talk a lot. But because of because suddenly I received this mail that I have to attend a meeting. So please forgive me for that. Yeah. Please, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. S.K. Singh, for your a wonderful talk. And participants, if you have any questions, you can directly ask. You can also share your thoughts in the chat box. We can take 1-2 questions. We have 10 minutes. I was actually thinking, sir, as we were talking about great derangement and hungry tide, specifically, I worked in the Sundarbans for my doctoral dissertation.
Yeah.
And from geography perspective, though, and
Yes.
conservation, like, impacts of conservation on rural livelihoods. And as you mentioned, that colonialism, like in how the role of colonialism in the climate crisis, that is one of the significant themes actually running through this hungry tide. I haven't read the Great Derangement though, but I would say that, if we look at the
This is the
Sundarbans
book, you must read it, ma'am.
yes,
You will find out everything, whatever you want, all the questions answered are there. And especially how, because of the political crisis, because everything is happening, especially climate change is you can say the root cause is only the political crisis. People don't want, they just want to say it. And if we talk about colonialism, how it is going to, how I'm talking about this, about ecological concerns, yes, the whole story. Simply you think, I'm giving example of the shadow lines. In shadow lines, there is a character who says, Thama is a grandmother, is a character. She was born when it was a whole India, means there was no Pakistan, no Bangladesh. And then there was Pakistan, 47, then 71, Bangladesh. And her relatives, they are living in Bangladesh. You can say Dhaka, not Bangladesh, you can say. And at the time of embarkation form, she says, what I have to fill. I was born in Dhaka, I'm living in India right now, but at that time it was India. What is my nationality now? Where to write, what is my? And the person who is there in Dhaka, when he was asked to move from Dhaka to Delhi, I can say other places of India, he says, what is India's India? What is India's India? Once you start moving, it never stops. Who knows, today we are in India. Some other things maybe those who are in Bangladesh tomorrow, they may be in India. Those who are in Pakistan, they may be in India, or anything else maybe, earlier Afghanistan. So the shadow lines, as it says, it is political everything. There is only shadow line, there is no any real line. People are living in such. So colonialism is really creating, because they are willing to extract everything. They don't want to give anything, they want to get everything. At that time, everything was like, you read all the books, especially in Indian context, you can see how they were exploiting all the areas, all the sectors of country. It may be farming, farmers, it may be agriculture sector, it may be industrial sector, everything they wanted to destroy and then exploit. So if I want to get only the things, my greed is, you can say, greater than whatever the need is. What I do? I'm going to harm them. Like mines, what they did, you can come and see. We are living in the industrial area. How the greed is creating such kind of environmental concerns. When in the morning we just cough, at the time of coughing in the morning, we get the black dust out. It is because of what? Not only industrialization. Industrialization is one part, but when the greed is there, means everything we have to do, we have to destroy without planting other trees, without giving other aspects of the environment more and more stress. Only one thing is there. CSR is there, I know, but CSR is just for the sake of, mostly just for the sake of namesake. That is not doing everything. I'm also a part of that. I can see it.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. We received two questions actually from the audience.
Please.
So one question is that, like, how can we correlate the great derangement with the nutmeg's crack? That is one question. And another question came from Divya. Sir, climate fictions are being increasingly produced in the West in recent times, but in the Indian context, there aren't many writers like Amitav Ghosh and not many fictions dealing with climate change. What do you think could be the reasons?
Yeah. The first question, the Great Derangement and Nutmeg Stuff. I have bought it, but I didn't get time to read that book. But summary I have read. But that is not mostly written with the Great Derangement, not climate change. That is about the other things, you can say, especially the hunger of power. People are hungry for the power, and what they did, it started from opium, everything like that. But yes, second question, as you told, Amitabh Ghosh is Amitabh Ghosh. He is focused on that. Others, they are also writing, but not in prominent manner. I have read nearly all the books till The Glass Palace and then The Great Derangement also. I have seen he writes everywhere. He thinks about that, what could be done. What could be done for the sake of environment, or how people think about the environment. Everybody cannot take such kind of risk. Who can say that I don't want any kind of prizes? So people have different, but yes, in South, a few days ago, I have checked some theses, and I found, yes, people are thinking about it. They are writing, but not as a focused one, not as a prominent theme of their own, whatever writing is. But people are writing. You can't say there are no writers. Writers are there. Prominent theme is other one. Great Derangement, the Hungry Tide, or Calcutta Commotion, everywhere. I'm not saying only these two books are. They are prominent one. But he has discussed in all the books, beginning from the shadow, the circle of reason to the Great Derangement and Hope. In Gun Island also I have seen, but the Nutmeg I have not read. So don't think that people are not writing. Writers are writing. People are doing a lot of research also, but because Amitabh Ghosh is Amitabh Ghosh, he has done everything. He has written everything based on extensive research. Who gives you one kind of a, what we say, a dictionary to read the book? For Irish trilogy, he has given a separate dictionary. He has prepared a dictionary for the people so that they can understand what I am writing there. Because he has used some other language, you can say dialects only. For that purpose, you need to be really, what we say, very much focused, and with courage you can write it. Not just simply writing. It is not possible to write the Great Derangement. And if you read the countdown, 1 hour book, but it opens the brain that 1 hour book says what may happen if simply one explosion is there, nuclear explosion is there in Himalayas. What may happen? You cannot think of. But with the help of research data, he has given that book. So I think he is passionate about it. As I gave you that, it would be injustice to become a writer with his writings. If I'm not writing about the social things. And especially we also know that literature is the mirror of society. So he's really writing as a mirror of society. And then he says also, do it, not only to write. And I have written most things, activism. He's active one, and he has written many times. He writes regularly. He writes articles also. I'm following him, so I know very well that yes, he writes all kinds of all kinds of things. What is happening, especially on climate change, and sometimes sarcastic way also. So I love it really.
Sir, there is one more question in the chat box. I'm taking that question, and I hope that this could be, I think, the last question. Is there specific examples of climate change concern or any mention of climate change in the novel? Second question is that, do you think about what do you think about Sir Daniel Hamilton in the novel? How does Ghosh reflect him? What do you think about his project? Wasn't it environmental degradation?
The first one, yes. If you read the Hungry Tide, specifically the cetologist, once he goes there for the sake of her research work, she finds how the penguins and other creatures, they are dying. Bengal tigers, how they are dying there, how people are killing them, they are using them. Not only the outsiders, insiders are those who are the local people. And I have shown you the pic which I have shown you. I think if you want, I can show it again. That what was it and how it is right now. So he has depicted in his own novel also, which I have shown. All the pictures are based on the novel. I have not given only because it is for the sake of showing you. No, whatever is written on the basis of that, how the creatures are dying, species are being, we are just losing some species also. That is given there. And you can read it and you can find it very well. Second question was, ma'am, sorry, I just forget.
Second question is, what do you think about Sir Daniel Hamilton in the novel? How does Ghosh reflect him? What do you think about his project? Wasn't it environmental degradation?
It is not about only environmental degradation. It is about how in the planned way, because there is one delta full of all kinds of flora and fauna. And suddenly one company comes and tries to make, anybody comes and try to make it just one place of tourist. And they are cutting the trees and other things also they are doing, which is not permissible at that area. Some legal way, some illegal way. So this is not only, you can say, the degradation, it is how in the planned way, people are decaying the ecology, they are trying to harm the ecology, and then trying to make money because of their greed. So something is a planned way. Naturally, we can't say this is only degradation. It is just destroying the things, not only degradation. It is destruction part, you can say.
I would just comment here, Daniel Hamilton was a Scottish person.
Yeah,
he came from actually Scotland, Daniel Hamilton. He came from Scotland and he settled in Sundarban, specifically the Goshaba block. If you go to Rangabelia, Goshaba block in the Sundarban. So you can say he was part of this colonial exploitation, which was, land reclamation from 1770. So that is the time, during that time, like 18th century, Daniel Hamilton came. But at the same time, Daniel Hamilton was very revered in the Goshaba because he was the first kind of settler. And also, I think in the Hungry Tide, it was also mentioned about kind of cooperative development or how that idea actually came through Daniel Hamilton. So,
but ma'am, actually, if you go through the Hungry Tide, all the politics is there so that they cannot make people understand what may happen. Then things are being kept hidden. They don't want to show the people what may happen. And one person is coming and doing the things. So project, it may be, but mostly what I'm trying to say, these books are not as a part of only project, but for the not for the sake of degradation, but the planned way of destroying the nature. I'm talking about it's not about the degradation, it's a planned way of the destroying the nature. Like
I think you could say it's the impact of development. Actually, it is actually part of colonial expansion, land reclamation, and if you look at the whole Sundarban history, it is because of the paddy cultivation.
Ma'am, I said when you think about development, we have to pay the price. But in development, we plan to develop the ecology also. We plan to develop the environment also. Whenever you go for the development, any plan you can see, there is always plan for environmental impact.
Yes, I am not, dismissing that the environmental impact, but I am just saying that Daniel Hamilton is also part of this whole colonial, exploitation.
He is. I was answering about that, whether it is degradation or something else. I was answering that one.
Now, degradation, can be defined in either it is a natural way or it is a man-made degradation. There are
both ways.
Both factors are there.
Yeah, and both ways. But when something is planned, and because in development, we plan for the development of ecology also. But here we are thinking about one way of development. That is, yes, we have to find out the things, we have to acquire the things. What happens to the nature, we don't know. So it is what? Destruction. It's completely destroying the nature. And that is the mindset of the people, those who are going there. And that has been written here in the Hungry Tide also. And how it is the matter of politics, political crisis also in the Great Derangement.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering that question. I don't think we have any more questions. As you said, you have.
Sorry, ma'am, I have to leave. That's why I have just cut it short.
No problem, sir. That's why I'm saying that thank you for joining today. And we just want to announce that we have our last session tomorrow from 3 p.m. And I would like to thank Dr. S.K. Singh once again. I would like to thank our associate team for giving us this opportunity to organize the event. And I also thank all the participants for joining in the afternoon session. Thank you. And I am officially formally ending the session. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.